Let's bring in Dr. Jeanne Zaino, who teaches political science at Iona College in Westchester County, New York. First question I have for you, and I think your students, when they come back to class next week, at least one or two wise guy students like me, would say, do you think the wall, doctor, is a manufactured issue? I would ask you that if you were teaching me political science, and what would you say?
I would look at the history, and I was glad you went back to the Reagan administration, and I would go back even further. Immigration has always been used in the United States and in other countries as a symbol by leaders to show that they are protecting the American public or whatever public they serve, and that they are securing the border. So I would say the wall, very much like immigration itself, has become a symbol of protection. And the question for me as a political scientist is, I'm not representing the Democratic Party or the Republican Party or any other party. I'm a political scientist, and the question is effectiveness. If the issue is a question of border insecurity, is the wall the most effective way to use our public, hard-earned money to secure that border? And that's the question I would say to students.
All right, so let me interpret then. So you would tell the student, no, it's not a manufactured issue. There is a problem at the southern border. That's accurate, right?
There is a problem at the southern border. Yes, absolutely.
Right. And then, so then it
problem
becomes,
the president defined last night, though.
So then it becomes, how do you deal with that problem?
Absolutely,
do you spend the money on the wall?
And cost effectively. Absolutely.
Okay.
How do you deal with it?
How do you deal with it?
The president had some good ideas last night. New technology, increasing personnel. We have not seen, and this is why I think we do need to go to the experts. We have not seen many experts who said for the problems the president defined, drugs, crime, that a concrete or a steel barrier is going to stop them. Let's just look at drugs. Most of the drugs are coming through legal ports of entry from the southern border, to his point, but they are the legal ports. That's where we would invest if we want to stave off that problem. So I think we do have to have a smart discussion about the facts and what's the most effective way to proceed. And you're absolutely right to say Democrats have supported barriers, so have Republicans. But the issue now is, how do we do this effectively?
Okay, so I'm going to be an advocate for the wall because I believe that that would be effective. And I will point out that it's effective in protecting Israeli lives. We all know that, all right? It's been effective in stopping the mass migration from Syria and North Africa into Europe, and that's just recent. And it was unbelievably effective when the Soviet Union ordered the wall built in East Germany to keep the Germans in. And those are all facts. Now, as for your assertion that the narcotics are coming in through ports of call, this is a mantra put out by the Democratic Party. But if you look at the analysis from the Border Patrol agents themselves, which is where I go, because they're the experts, they say the problem is we're too spread out. Because we do have trucks unloading at the Rio Grande River in Texas, and we do have intrusions in Arizona and California of a lot of narcotics coming across the border in the rural areas, and we have to be there. But if you put a barrier in those rural areas, they don't have to be there as much, all right? They can go into the ports of call and flood the zone, which is why crime in the United States has dropped, because the ComSat system used in big cities like New York has flooded the zone where the crime is. So if the importation comes through ports of call, like Juarez and Tijuana, and you don't need the border agents out in the rural areas because you have an impenetrable barrier, they can do the job there. Now, the cartels don't want the wall. Are you aware of that?
Absolutely, but let me
just so there's a reason. There's a reason the cartels don't want the wall, is there not?
Let me just challenge you on that for a minute. Nobody who has looked at this issue has said a concrete or a steel barrier is the most cost-efficient and effective way to stop the flood of narcotics. Number one, most do come through legal entry systems, and those that
But if
don't,
you
which are
have
the
more
but
people
the ones you're
there,
talking about that don't,
right?
they're most effectively stopped by new technology like drones and other
No,
ways
they're
in which
not.
we can
Drones
now
is reactive.
absolutely we can absolutely watch the border, and we can use personnel to stop those entries. That is the most effective way to do it. You're talking about Israel, the Soviet Union, East Germany, West Germany. This was, these things were erected in many instances long before we had the technology to do what we can do
The
today.
technology isn't going to stop the smuggling, whether it's people or drugs. It'll just highlight where it is and that it's happening. A drone doesn't
And the
stop
United States
anything
personnel
unless you
can
put a
stop it.
death ray on it. A drone just signals down it, and when you have 3,000 miles of border, and a border patrol spread out over that area, okay, you can't stop them. They're coming in. Now, is it going to stop all the narcotics from coming here? No. Would a wall stop 50%? Yes. And that's a lot. And you flood that zone with more Border Patrol agents because you have a wall, as I said, in the rural areas. It's much easier to confiscate the drugs. And the cartel knows it, which is why the cartel doesn't want the wall.
But
They
the
fight
numbers do not
against the
suggest
wall.
that 50% of narcotics are coming through, though they do not suggest they are coming through those non-legal methods.
But there are
let's
enough
just-
that do that you have to man it. You have to staff it. And you wouldn't have to staff it if there was an impenetrable barrier. That's
You
why
don't
they
have
want
to
it.
staff it if you use new technology either. And so, but let's just look
New
at what the
technology is
president
not
and
going to
the
stop human beings from sneaking in or bringing narcotics through. Only
But this is
manpower will do that.
And this is exactly the kind of conversation our leaders should be having. What is the most effective way? And the problem with both the Democrats and Republicans now is they have built this wall up, excuse the pun, to be a symbol of something that it doesn't need to be. The question is effective and cost efficient. It's not we have a
But
wall or not.
he's
So
asking
they
for
should be having this debate.
$5.5 billion. That's
That's
nothing.
a lot of money.
No, it's
That's a lot of money.
Not
Well, that's a
not
lot
as
of
far
money.
as the federal budget is concerned. It's not a lot of
Well, it
money,
should be a
and it's
lot
not
of
going
money
to
to
build
both
the
of us.
total wall. It's only going to build
No,
a
it
barrier
won't.
into places where they feel they need it.
And
This
it's not
whole
going to build a
debate,
wall that's effective. It's not going to be effective. It's not going to
you
stop.
can't
And
say
what
it's
happens
not
is
effective when you go to the Yuma sector, where they did put up an impenetrable wall, and the Yuma authorities will tell you it has been effective. You can't say it's not effective when the proof has already been stated. All right? So Yuma sector has seen its people smuggling and drug smuggling drop 80, 90% after that wall was put there. The smugglers went other places. And it makes perfect sense. All right. I got one more question as far as your
Okay.
presentation to your students, because I'm very interested in it.
yes.
All right, so the students come in, and it seems to me that the Democrats and the Republicans, as you pointed out, and I think that's correct, have made this a political issue rather than a public safety issue. I object to you or any other American saying the wall doesn't work because there is proof that it does work in certain places. And if it does work in Yuma, it would work in Juarez. Okay, so the students come in. And a lot of them are leftists. A lot of them are, invested in the Democratic Party and in far left philosophy. What do you tell them? Do you tell them that both parties are looking out for the folks, are looking out for Americans? Or do you tell them that?
No, I mean, I tell them that they need to look at what the issue is and to try to find a solution that is both politically palatable and also is efficient and effective. I mean, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about good public policy. So we always talk about that regardless of party. And I would suggest that
if I raise my hand and I go,
by the way.
well, Professor, there's no problem at the southern border anyway, so we shouldn't even be talking about this. We should be talking about global warming. Do you mock that person? You go, you're out of your mind. There is a problem at the southern border. Or you just go, how nice are you?
I mock nobody, Bill O'Reilly.
All
I
right.
mock nobody. No,
See,
of
my
course, we
technique would be a lot
engage.
different. All right.
I know.
Doctor, thanks for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very lively
you.
and instructive debate. Thank you.